I am Gaius Fulvius Solanus, and based upon my previous acts of bravery and loyalty in past conflicts, I have been appointed dictator of Rome. Once again I have been called upon to defend Mother Rome from her enemies, and once again I march to the south. But not to fight Samnites this time, no, for indeed it is the Samnites among other tribes that beg for Rome's help. For the kingdom of Epirus has invaded southern Italy, and they seek to expand their kingdom by force. 'Twas a hot summer's day, and the armor on my men weighed heavy, but they saw the enemy in front of them, and they knew what need be done that day. My men marched steady, with fear and hesitation in their hearts no longer. They had fought too many wars, killed too many men for such things to matter to them now. They look forward only to the adrenaline of battle and the rewards of victory. As my enemy marched ahead with clear intent, I did the same. I bring in my army a few velite units and a long line of heavy infantry cohorts, flanked by triarii on both sides, and backed up with auxiliary cavalry, with Socii shock cav to round out the mobile force. I order my cavalry to imitate the enemies as they move out to the far flank. I will not be caught off guard by a flanking strike. I witness how my enemy is maneuvering, so I put together a counter, moving all my velites to the right, as well as half my triarii force. They will back up any cavalry engagements, and we will need them against the Hellenic cavalry. The Hellenic royals can outclass any cavalry we can bring to the field. We will need those triarii. They back their cavalry up in kind with hoplites. And of course, they're beasts. This is why I brought the velites. Their slingers will be deadly, their pikes impassable. But we need to preserve every javelin until those monsters have been brought down.
Move it! As you say!
My enemy moves to strike at my right flank. I need to prepare for the oncoming charge. My enemy moves ahead with cavalry and spears, headed by the beasts. But my javelins are there to ward them off. I move forward my triarii and velites, pressuring their flank. If I could just get my velites close to his beasts, my triarii would make short work of his hoplites, and then we could move to surround and rout their cavalry. As the flanking forces jockey for position, the center line stands still and ready for the outcome. This battle will be won on the flanks. And suddenly, the enemy began their charge. Forward they struck in a diamond formation, backed by spears and the beasts. The cavalry at first tried to fall back, knowing that fighting both the elite cavalry and the beasts was suicide. But quickly they tried to reform and realizing there was nowhere to run. The velites, however, were beginning to prove themselves a very worthwhile investment. Their clumsy beasts soon began to fall before our javelins, and though many had gotten into the backs of our cavalry, if they would hold out just a bit longer, we could have the royal cavalry all to ourselves. Elsewhere on the right flank, the triarii had gotten into their hoplites. They will be cut down. As invested as I was in the right flank, I'd almost not noticed treachery on the left, but that is why I kept spears in reserve, hidden to defend from such attacks. I sent my Praetorians to aid in the cavalry engagement. The beasts were all but dealt with, but we took heavy losses, and some of the enemy were getting into the backs of our triarii. We needed to clean up this flank while we still had enough cavalry to flank the enemy. As the battle on the right raged, the two main bodies inched closer. Our triarii warded off the enemy cavalry swinging around our left, a dangerous position as the enemy cavalry can simply outrun the infantry and go completely around to find a more suitable target. The enemy had killed a large amount of our skirmishers, but the damage had been done. Soon, the right would be won. The Epirus king, sensing the severity of the situation, rides to the flank in an attempt to rally the spears and missiles he has left. But the situation is growing grim for the enemy, and he quickly pulls off. My cavalry, however, are lifted on the adrenaline of victory and are regrouping to make a swing around the enemy lines. One of my centurions recounted to me the spirits of the men, with their raucous joy and almost being unable to regroup due to their over-eagerness to celebrate. One man had even yelled out that he would buy every man in the legion a cup of wine and a night with their whore of choice. I bet at this moment that man is very drunk and very regretful. At last our main line met. I thought of moving back to avoid unnecessary losses to their pikes, but I knew I had to keep their pikes pinned. Our cavalry had almost finished their work. I saw my chance to slip through their lines and took it to further rally the men. And then I saw my enemy. King Epirus and my shock cavalry charged each other. Whether mad or brave, he bought his skirmishers a bit more time to do their work. The enemy spears on the right were beginning to shatter. My remaining velites moved up to begin their part in the envelopment, and my praetorians, seeing that chance, swung around the enemy line to get right into the back of a phalangite unit. Behind the main line were two very fresh and very dangerous units of enemy cavalry. Our triarii pursued and tried to ward them off. If they smashed right into the backs of our legionnaires and combat with the pikemen, it could be an instant rout. But charge they did. Luckily for us, one of our cohorts had just broken an enemy pike unit, so they weren't sandwiched in. Another cohort wasn't so lucky. But the triarii kept their chase, and aided by more spears from the right, quickly moved in to surround the heavy cavalry. They would not last long against Roman spears. But on the main line, many Romans were killed by the pikes. Our line was thinning, but the right was won, and I had made sure to get my fill of Greek blood. I could see just east of my position the would-be king of Italy and Greece, surrounded and bodyguards shattered, run through by Roman steel. His head would be at the front of my triumph.
At speed! Extempo! Double time! Charge!
The legion held steady. Triarii surround the remaining cavalry. Most of the Epirus heavy infantry is hung on our main line, and now we begin to roll up the entire Greek army. Now is the time for the dirty work to begin. The bastards, some knowing of the king's fate, some not, desperately tried to reform and maneuver to better positions. But at every turn there was a Roman ready to give back tenfold the death they had brought upon us. The cowards had brought monsters from Africa to bolster their forces. There would be no quarter shown. These dogs don't even deserve to be slaves. My order was clear. Run down every Greek bastard and redden the Adriatic with their blood, so that every Greek knows Romans are not some barbarian tribe to be swept away. Let them all know the power of Rome, and the glory of I, Gaius Fulvius Silanus, sword and shield of Italia, dictator and hero to the people of Rome. And let the old crones of the Senate know I will not give up that duty so readily. Protecting the people is my honor, my duty, and the glory of battle my mistress. No longer will I allow the ineffectual senators to let murderous barbarians knock on our doors just before putting a competent man in charge to save them and their riches. No more.
Ring advance! Top engage!
When the screams of agony died down and the cheers of victory grew louder, I could only think as I looked upon the horde of soldiers turning to face me, drenched in gore. Did the men under Rutulus chant his name?